So today we're going to be doing elimination. So what elimination is, if I said that Jalen was eliminated from this class, you can raise your hand and tell me, what does that mean? If Jalen's eliminated from this class, taken out, right? He's out of here. Like if I said that Christopher's eliminated from the football team, he's out, right? Kicked off. So today we're doing something called elimination, and we do it when both equations are in standard form. So maybe even on your notebook or at the top, we do it when both equations are in the standard form. What that means, yes, that means it would be look like this: ax plus by equals c, meaning both ax and y are on the same side. Before we start, does anyone want a colored pen? Some of them are disappearing too. Make sure you guys, if you're borrowing them, bring them back. Anybody else want a colored pen? Yeah. So first thing we do, and I'm going to do this first one first, we write get in line. So first thing I'm writing is get in line. And so what that means is I need to line up my x's and y's. You can see it's already done for me right here, but I'm going to make sure that x starts first, plus 3y equals 6. I'm just rewriting it. 5x plus 3y equals 20. I'll give you one second. So first thing you do is line up, the x's need to line up and the y's need to line up. So sometimes the x's and y's won't be in order. When they're not, you got to make sure get them in order. The next thing you do is, glue that side. Next thing you do is make a pair by finding which variable you would like to play around with. And I'll explain this in a second. Opposites attract. And so what we do is we look at the coefficients that are in front of x and the coefficients that are in front of y. And so what our goal is to be able to get the coefficients the same number, different sign. And so if we look at the x's, what are the coefficients of x right here? -6 and what? What about y? 3 and 3. Which ones would be easier to play around with to get them to be the same number, different sign? The x's or the y's? The y's, right? So I'm going to be doing y's, and I'm going to be wanting plus 3y, and I'm going to want one to be minus 3y. And so I'm going to be playing around with the y's to get the coefficients to be the same number, different sign. So sometimes you may want to play around with the x's. Sometimes you may want to play around with the y's. It's whichever one is easier. And opposites attract, they have to be the same number as a plus sign. Same number, different sign. Yeah, so one's a plus, one's minus. The next step is multiply or distribute or multiply one or both equations to make the love connection happen. And so I'm going to write down the original equations one more time right here. So -6x plus 3y equals 6, and 5x plus 3y equals 28. And so I need to make one of them negative. What number can I multiply that makes something change signs? Does anyone know what number I can multiply that would make something just change signs? Negative what? Just in general. It's always the same number. Negative what? Not 0. Negative 1. When you multiply something by -1, it just changes the sign, right? Because 1 times that number is that same number, and that negative just changes the signs. So now I'm going to figure out which one do I want to change the signs of. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to do the first one, but if you wanted to do the second one, you would get the same answer. So since I'm doing the first one, I know I want to make that negative 3y. So I know I want to make that first one negative 3y, and I want to make the second one positive 3y. They have to be opposites. So it doesn't really matter which one you do. I'm just doing the first one just because. And so to make this positive 3y, negative 3y, what number do you need to multiply? Negative 1. So you're going to distribute negative 1 to each term. Yeah, don't forget about any of those terms. So by multiplying negative 1, it just changes the sign. So now, what's that? If this sign is negative, what's it going to be now? Positive 6x minus 3y. And what's that going to be now? Negative 6. So it basically negative 1 just changes the sign of each one. Do you need to do anything to the first one? Or the second one, sorry?
No.
To get it to be positive 3y? No, so I'm just going to rewrite it. And so, yeah, so we don't have to do anything to the second one because it's already positive 3y. So I did this first. I wrote the boxes first so that I can see, okay, what do I want and how am I going to get there? The next thing we do is add the equations. And so we're always adding the equations to eliminate a variable. Now I'm going to do that up here, but you have room on yours. I redistributed it, so it should go right up to there. So right here, I would add the two equations together, always adding. And you're just adding down the line. What is 6 plus 5? 11x. What's negative 3 plus 3? 0. It eliminates. The point of us doing that is to eliminate a variable. And then what's just it would be 0y, which is 0. So don't leave y there. Y's gone. We manipulated this so that we can get rid of y. Then what's negative 6 plus 28? 22. And so this part should be right down here. 11x equals 22. Then the next step, step 5, says solve for the variable. So solve for the variable. So how would I get x by itself? And so I'm just going one box up. Divide by 11 on both sides, and you end up getting x equals what? 2. So that means your x coordinate, where those lines intersect, is 2. And so substitution is the same thing, but see how there's all these coefficients, you would have to move it around a lot. Like if you're good with substitution, you like moving things around, you would get the same answer. Also, if you like graphing and you want to sit there and graph them, you would also get the same answer. I like this way the best because it kind of just gets to the point. Then what we do is to get our y, we plug our 2 in for x. It doesn't matter which one of these equations you use. So if you want to use the first one, use the first one. If you want to use the second one, use the second one. You'll get the same answer. I'm going to use the second one, which is 5x plus 3y equals 20. And for x, I got 2. Then you're just going to solve. What is 5 times 2? 10. So I get 10 plus 3y equals 28. Then, how do I get the constant to the other side? This 10. Because it's positive. Beautiful. And you would get 3y equals 18. Then what do? Divide by 3 on both sides. And you end up getting y equals what? Beautiful. So your y coordinate where they meet is 6. Even if you chose the first equation, you would have gotten the same answer. Last step, write your answer as an ordered pair. So cute couple we created, who are they? They're 2 as my x and 6 as my y. And so this seems like a lot, but the more you practice it again, the better you get at it. And so all we're really doing is kind of playing around with the coefficients to get them to be the same number of different signs, multiplying something, and adding the equations. I think that, to me, this is a lot easier than substitution, but everyone has different thoughts. Yeah. This right here, ordered. Like an ordered paired coordinate. So now we're going to try that one. We only had to switch signs. The next one we're going to try, we may have to multiply numbers. So I'm going to go back up, and we're going to do it this second example. Yeah, see, so first we look.
Wait, so the number and the sign.
Well, the first thing we need to do is write them in order. So let's write them in order one more time. So now we're doing this one right here. Negative 2x minus 5y equals 3. Negative x, what's that invisible coefficient next to x? 1. Plus 7y equals negative 8. Then, next thing I need to think about is what do I want to play around with? You could play around with the y's if you wanted to, but you would have to multiply something to both of them to get them to be the same number, different sign. As opposed to right here, negative 2, if this is negative 2x, I could make this positive 2x. What could I multiply to negative 1 to make it positive 2? Negative 2, right? Negative 1 would just change the sign, but negative 2 would make it change the sign and multiply to get 2. So in this case, we're going to play around with the x's and make it negative 2x and positive 2x. If you wanted to do the y's for a brain bug, who can raise their hand and tell me what is the smallest number 5 and 7 could go into? What did you say? 35. So 35, you would have positive and negative 35. You would have to multiply something to both of them. So now I'm going to rewrite the equations right here. And so sometimes you will have to multiply both. And so we decided we wanted to play around with the x's. And so right here, I already have negative 2x. I don't want to have to change that one. And we want to make the second one positive 2x. And so to multiply, we need to figure out what can we multiply to negative 1 to make it positive 2. What did we say we have to multiply it by? Negative 2, right? Because what's negative 2 times negative 1? Positive 2. But we got to share the love, right? What's negative 2 times 7? Negative 14y. And then negative 2 times negative 8. Positive 16. So do you see, we're just playing around with the numbers to figure out same number, different sign. If you wanted to play around with the y's and get 35 and negative 35, you would get the same answer. So like, that would be a separate thing. If I wanted to do the y, what could I multiply to negative 5 to make it negative 35? What number? Not negative. Positive 7, right? I would have to multiply the top one by positive 7. And what would I have to multiply this one by? 7 by to get 35. Just positive for this one. 5. So you can multiply the whole bottom one by 5 and the whole top one by 7, and you would get the same answer. Because you would be eliminating the y's. But you kind of want to do the thing that's easiest. And the more you do this, it may be a little confusing right now, but the more you practice this, the easier it will get. Do I need to do anything to the top equation to get it to be negative 2x? No, so I'm just going to rewrite it. It is. And so the more you do it, the easier it will get. And so I'll do a few examples. And then step 4, we always add the equations. So when I add them, what's negative 2 plus 2?
0.
0. They're eliminated. That's why it's called elimination. We're eliminating a variable. What's negative 5 plus negative 14? Negative 19. And 3 plus 16? 19. See how we eliminated a variable? So then how do I get y by itself? Divide and you end up getting y equals -1. So now we have our y coordinate. To get your x coordinate, we plug it in. Does it matter which equation you use? No, it doesn't matter which one you use. I'm going to actually use the first one, just because, why not? So I have -2x minus 5, what did we get as y? -1 equals 3. Then what's a -5 times -1? +5. Then what do? The two-step equation. Subtract 5 on both sides. And you end up getting -2x equals -2. To get x by itself, you would divide, right? And what do you end up getting for x? What's -2 divided by -2? +1. And so your answer here would be 1, -1. How could you check your work to make sure you got it right? Plug it in for both equations. Make sure it makes sense. So make sure to put this in your notebook. We'll do one more together, just to make sure you got it. So put this in your notebook and get that do now sheet back out. We're going to do one together. And so I recorded this so that you can walk it back. Which one do I want to do? I'm going to do, let me see your work. Sure. I'm going to do number 8. So number 8 says -2x minus y equals -2. It's on the back. And then 10x plus 2y equals 4. And so sometimes it doesn't matter if you play around with the x's and y's. It doesn't matter which one, because I could totally play around with the x's and it would be just as easy as playing around with the y's. So first thing you want to do after you write it down is figure out if you want to play with the x's or y's. I'm going to be playing with the x's just to show you what it's like, but you could also play with the y's. And so since I'm playing with the x's, what number, if this is 10, what number could I make this so that they're the same number, different sign? It's already 10. So multiplying 5 would make it -10. So see how this is 10x? I could go, oh yeah, I can multiply this by 5 and make it the same number, different sign. See that?
But you want to
Because you want the same numbers. This is already positive. So since it's negative, I don't even need to change the sign. You could also have played around with the y's. What could you have multiplied the top one so it was 2y and -2y?
Sure.
Not negative. 2. You could have multiplied each one by 2. And so it's almost, the hardest part is kind of seeing what do you want to play around with and how am I going to get there? Because the rest of it is pretty easy. So right here, does everyone get this part, how I looked at this and I said, okay, which one do I want to play with? It doesn't matter which one. I'm doing x's because Christopher wants to play with the x's. But if you wanted to do y's, it would be just as easy. And so I could go, okay, if I multiply 5 to -2, I know I get that answer. That same number, different sign. But make sure you got to share the love. So if you're going to do that, it's got to multiply to every single term. And so that's how we get this -10x. What's 5 times -y? -5y. And what's 5 times -2? -10. Does that make sense? So we figure out what number to multiply to make them the same number, different sign. It doesn't matter if you use x or y, but usually there's one that's easier. Do I need to do anything to this bottom equation to make it 10x? No, so you just rewrite it. always the function that I do between this and this. Do I add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Always adding, right? Because that's how we get eliminated the x's. So negative 10 plus 10 is zippo, right? So this would cross out. And so this is number 8 on your worksheet. Number 8. Then what is negative 5 plus 2? Good, negative 3y. And then negative 10 plus 4, negative 6. Then, to get y by itself, what do you have to do? Divide by negative 3. And you end up getting y equals 2. So you know your y coordinate in your answer is automatically going to be 2. Yeah. To get your x, does it matter which one you plug it into? No, I'm going to plug it into the second one, because why not? Yeah. So I'm going to plug it into the second equation. But if you plugged it in the first one, it wouldn't really matter. You get the same answer. So instead of y, what do we get for y? 2. And then we just solve. What is 2 times 2? 4. Then what do we do?
You subtract
4. What is 4 minus 4? 0. Then what do you do? And 0 divided by anything equals 0. So x equals 0. For a brain buff, when your x is 0, what vocabulary word do we use to describe that on a graph? Raising your hand. Not or, that's 0, 0. 0, 0 is origin, but just when your x is 0 and you have a number there. What do we call that on a graph? If I like x equals, if that's your equation, then it would be an undefined slope. But what about just the point 0, 2? It's something intercept. Y-intercept. So when your x is 0, that's your y-intercept. So not only do they cross at 0, 2, it's also your y-intercept. So if you go to the beginning questions, like right here, if you go to the beginning questions, these ones, do you guys see how you don't even need to change anything around? See how they're already the same number, different sign? So you skip the first 3 steps. What do you do next? Add. So these ones, it could be this easy, where they're already set up for you. Same number, different sign. Well, it only has to be yeah, it only has to be one of them. And so when I do that, these already cross out, and you get 13y equals negative 13, and then so on. So the first couple are pretty easy. God bless you. So you could see something this easy. You could see something a little bit harder. And so you guys do only have 15 minutes left. So how many people want practice and then just to do the check for understanding tomorrow? Okay, so I'm going to have you guys practice on this worksheet. Go to the front because it starts easy, and then by the back it gets harder. So if you start at the beginning, I have my answer key right next to Gustavo in that binder. Yeah, and you guys can go put your check for understandings. That goes in your notebook. Go put your check for understandings in that first period drawer. My